Jason in Denver, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. I've been listening to your guys' show not very long, and I just want to thank you so much for what you're doing.
Oh, great. I think you're going to ask a question that's directly related to what we just talked about.
Well, you know, it's ironic because I haven't been able to catch the show until just a few seconds ago when I called in. But I did want to kind of start off by just saying that I'm kind of in a transitional stage, and I am.
There are no transitional stages. Oh, sorry.
Well, I've been a Christian my whole life, and I am just totally fed up with what I see in religion. So,
good for
anyway,
you.
So
you should be.
Appreciate what you guys are doing. But here's the question. Now, from what I've been kind of coming to myself is that, you know, our survival instincts as humanity, as humans, have kind of brought us to our moral, you know, the place we are morally, right? We have developed our morality based on, you know, our survival of our species.
Well, our evolution and the fact that we're a cooperative society or cooperative species not only helped us achieve all the great things we have in our communication and language and technology, but it also gave us a lot of moral background as well, that we have the brains to empathize with people, and we can understand the suffering of others and try to reduce that harm and that sort of thing. And that those are some of the things that play into the morality that we have. Yes.
Right. Now, my question is when you see extreme evil, like, for instance, Hitler or Pol Pot, people like that, it's like that obviously has something, it's something different. It's like that kind of evil, you don't even see that in nature.
Well, there are people who have developmental issues or issues from their growing up where their empathy has been sabotaged, and in many cases where they're sociopaths, you find that these people have had their empathy sabotaged either organically through some sort of, you know, deformation in their brain or whatever, or through some sort of childhood trauma where they had it beaten out of them. So I won't say that that's the pat explanation in all cases, but that's certainly one thing that can lead to this sociopathology. And I don't know in Hitler's case or Pol Pot's case whether those were the case, but that certainly is true of a lot of people who are in jail, you know, for, you know, really heinous crimes.
Right, and it seems to be unique to our species almost, that evil.
Well, we know more about our species, so I don't know if I'd make that generalization, because, you know, when you see an animal that has been abused its whole life, it's not a normal animal, right? Like a dog or something, right?
That's true.
But we have, you know, in human society, we have to be pretty highly functioning in order to participate properly. A lot of stuff has to fall into place for it to work, and so I think, are more aware of the people for whom that doesn't happen, and that there's some sort of incomplete development.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I have one other quick question that has to do with my main hang-up with atheism, and I need a little clarity from you guys, because religion itself is it's very deprived, and I totally agree with you guys that from the fundamental perspective, it's very destructive. But when I look at atheism and I look at natural selection, it seems to me that based on natural selection that we have a causal, I'll use the word causal, reason for mass murder of, like, people with handicaps or people who are inferior. Why doesn't atheism, at its fundamental state, not based on, you know, what just moderates believe, but at its fundamental state, why does that not? Doesn't natural selection demand that we stand for like handicaps and?
There's this argument that you hear sometimes that I think you're getting on, and that is, well, if you believe in evolution, then you want to make sure the most fittest survive, and that therefore this leads you down a path towards eliminating the undesirables from society, right? This is the sort of thing you're saying?
Right.
Well, the problem with that is there's a confusion here. No one's advocating this. The confusion is between is and ought, right? So evolution is about how the process happens, how it works. There's survival of the fittest. By the way, humans are fit because we collaborate, we work together, and we build societies. That's why we're fit. It's not because we're good at killing. So there's confusion between is and ought. So evolution is about what is and how we got there, and there's another question entirely of what ought we do. Given where we are, what ought we do going forward? What policies do we put in place? And no one's arguing for this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So those are two very different things.
The other thing is that atheism isn't in any way tied to evolution. There are plenty of theists who accept evolution as well. And yeah, Don's right. Natural selection doesn't tell you anything at all about what one should do. And by the way, this idea of survival of the fittest that gets played up in these anti-evolution arguments that, well, we should, kill the Down syndrome kids or the wheelchair bound is nonsense. And that's what that is doing is that is artificial selection where someone else is determining what their criteria for fitness is and making pronouncements about what benefit somebody else is to society. And while that happens all the time, and it may be a fairly normal thing to do, it's not natural selection working at all.
Okay.
Good point. Good point.
Okay, well that helps out a lot. One note I just wanted to pass on to you guys, just coming from the inside perspective of Christianity, which I'm kind of getting out of, but you guys have mentioned a lot about how myths of the past, how they all kind of are similar, and like the flood, how there's different versions of it throughout different cultures, how the originality.
There are a lot of themes, and maybe part of that is because we have a lot of common fears, right? The flood myth, I think, is about the fear of what happens if it doesn't ever stop raining.
Well,
we don't know where this rain stuff's coming from, what's turning it on and off, and what happens if it doesn't get turned off. Who's gonna pull the plug in the bathtub and drain it all out? But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, well, I just wanted to encourage you guys when you're in this debate that what I hear from Christianity is they almost use this as a plug for themselves because they say, well, of course it's all going to correspond. All the myths are going to correspond with each other because they all have a common root.
Yeah.
Right.
And likewise, they've argued that Satan planted earlier messiahs on the planet in order to sow confusion for when the real one would show up.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, because they'll say like there's different cultures with different ideas of what the flood was like because they all experienced it, and so
yeah, pretty much any rationalization you can imagine, you're going to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of amusing, actually. See what they'll come up with next.
But thank you guys so much for what you're doing, and you're really helping to destroy my faith. So.
Okay,
Great. Glad to hear it. Thanks, Jason.